Okay, so this is my first ever video of building a computer from start to finish. It may not all fit in one video. I got about 27 minutes of recording before I have to change memory cards in my camera, but I'll do as much as I can do. So I'm building this for a friend. He bought all the parts, as you can see here. We have an Intel motherboard. We have a, this is the solid state drive. It's a Samsung 830 series. In my opinion, one of the best solid state drives you can get. Highly recommend this to anybody. I have a 256 gig. Those are actually on sale for pretty cheap now. But 128 is fine if you're going to have another hard drive for other things. Which brings us to this component, the Hitachi DeskStar 2 terabyte, also a good brand. Hitachi's owned by Western Digital now, so that makes it even better. For our processor, we got a Core i7. This is the 3770K. It's an unlocked processor. The most expensive component of our build here, which ironically is only that big. This huge box, yeah, you don't need it. Has a fan in it. A graphics card is a GTX 560. I don't know what the DS means, but it's super clocked. It's basically like ridiculously overclocked by the factory. EVGA makes quality stuff. We have a Blu-ray drive, which Newegg sent like this. I have this is our CPU cooler here. It's a Cooler Master, little air-based cooler, and then Cooler Master Silent Pro power supply. So, and then our case is this giant. Actually, it's not that big. It's a ATX mid tower. Here's the box for it, a Roswell R5. And it has USB 3.0 on the front panel, which is why my friend decided to get this one instead of some of the others. It has dust filters in it for the fans. So it's a pretty solid design. So you can see here, may as well take these little sticky things off while I'm at it. Yeah, they seem to like doing this. They put the little, sticky thingies over the buttons. So get those out of the way. This, I don't know what this is. I would imagine this is a fan speed control here, because you can see it has this huge fan. So, let's get started. Oh, and we also got a card reader for it. And how could I forget the RAM? It's a tiny little box here, but it's Corsair Vengeance. So also pretty good stuff. All these parts are top of the line. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is open up the case and basically, get all the packaging out of there. So I'm going to figure out which side opens. It's usually this side. So I will turn this. Yes, I'm using a couch instead of a table. Don't really have a spare table. Whoops. Well, I'll have to get that screw later. So the one thing that I hate about doing this is that the screws go all over the place. So I will use this table here just to store the stuff. So, pull the end off like this. Alrighty. So let's see what we got. RS5 gaming case user manual. I don't know who ever reads a user manual for cases. Looks like we got this fan connector. Have all of these front panel connectors here. This thing, I would imagine, contains all of the screws and other, mounting things. They did a good job of cramming this in here in a way that it's, right, there we go. Oh, I see what they did. Okay, so this is like our screws and stuff in here. And these are the hard drive mounting trays, which are pretty neat. It looks like all this has toolless installation. You just, unscrew these and so on, but we'll get to that later. So typically, this is one of the later steps we do, believe it or not. The first thing we want to do is take the motherboard out and basically put all of the stuff on it. The RAM, where'd that RAM go? Oh, that's the card reader, that's good. So the SSD and hard drive we'll put to the side here. Optical drive we'll put to the side. So here's what we want to do. I will try to put the camera down in a way that you can kind of see it. Okay. I don't know how well this will work, but I don't have anyone to hold the camera for me, so I'll have to do it like this. And the reason I brought scissors over here is because everything is still sealed, so we want to cut the seal out. We have 4 SATA cables. Those will come in handy. On the side, here's our back plate, which we'll do soon. And what is this? That looks like that's an SLI bridge, which we won't need. And we have a CD, some motherboard manuals, cashless label. What is this? Stickers for people who decide that they want those. Okay. So I'll put this box aside. I've got a nice space with a couch here to do this on. Now, we always suggest de-staticking yourself first. Typically, you can just touch an object like this. For people who are paranoid, they do sell these de-static wristbands, but I've never needed one, never worn one, never had a problem, so let's hope it doesn't start now. So here are our RAM slots. May as well start with the easy stuff. And of course, everything's sealed, so we gotta open this guy up. And okay. Looks like each stick has its own little plastic holder. I mean, given the insane heat sinks on these, I'd say that's probably a good idea. We should hope they're not, okay, good, they're not too hard to open. So, see if I can get a closer view here. Basically, the motherboard and the RAM itself is designed in a very fail-safe way. You can see that there's a little, right here, there's this little peg. It's designed to only go one way, right? If you try to do it this way, it won't line up. So it's more or less foolproof. So all we do is we just kind of set it in here like this, and then push down on each end. You need both hands to do that. But that's essentially all you have to do. And it's automatic. So for anyone building a computer, just look at look at this little notch, and look at these notches here, and line them up. It's very easy to do. It's designed to be pretty counterintuitive. So let me just make sure that you can see this. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you want to handle everything carefully. You want to just kind of press evenly on both sides and push these little white pieces in, and so you can see this is attached. You can pick the board upside down and it won't fall off. So that's good. But what we should actually do first, before speaking of flipping the board upside down, is make sure that the CPU, if it has a custom backplate, put that in now while we're at it. So I'll put this guy back in its little protective shell here. Okay. So the RAM, we can kind of just leave stacked up here. The box I'll put aside. So we want to check this CPU cooler. Again, everything is sealed. That's just how it works in the computer world. Okay. This one's a little bit harder. I almost need like an X-Acto knife or something to cut this. But let's see if I can. Yeah, that's good. I can just rip the whole plastic piece off. There we go. Alright. So, go ahead and open this monstrosity. Aha, see, it does have a custom backplate. And that is why we want to check this stuff first. I almost forgot. So, it has all these screws. Now, something that you want to know, it comes with its own thermal paste. I highly, highly suggest not using it. If you don't have any other thermal paste, then you can. But the stuff that comes with it is often not very good. So, you'll want a tube of this stuff. Arctic Silver 5, this way. My mom commented that it looks like a hypodermic needle, and it does. But this is the large tube. You can get a smaller one for about 10 bucks. If you're going to build more than one computer, I highly recommend just buying yourself a thing of Arctic Silver. So this is the actual cooler itself. It sits like this on the CPU. I'm going to leave it in the box until we're all set. So this is one of the only things where you really need to read through the directions, because it does depend on the actual cooler. So go ahead and open this up. This is warranty information. We don't need that. Okay. That's folded quite a lot. Wow, these guys are like experts at folding. Look at this. This thing is... Okay. Wow. Alright. So English. First we want, before installation, select the proper thing until socket. Okay. So we want to install the backplate. So essentially, I wonder if that'll... It looks like we're going to have to take this thing off. And this uses star-shaped screws. So I may need to get out my universal screwdriver kit. Let's see. Okay. Yes, if you look at the directions here, it's basically showing that we want to install the backplate first. So it looks like this board is odd, and it has its own little built-in backplate right here. That you can see this is screwed in, so it looks like we're going to need to unscrew this, because you got these 3 screws here. So I guess Intel doesn't want people using third-party stuff. Now this little thing here is essentially a way to protect the socket, because you can see, you got the socket here, so this whole little unit, and then when you're ready to put the CPU in, you basically crack this black piece off. It's not held in there by very much, but okay. Yeah, it looks like we will need to unscrew that, so I will stop the video recording for now, go grab my screwdrivers, and resume it when I have them. Okay, so as it turns out, you don't actually take the backplate off. I just, looked around a little bit. This piece just goes over it, and it goes upside down. I mean, this is usually the backplate, but since it's a Core 1155 processor, or LGA 1155 rather, it goes like this, and then these screw on here, and then these screws replace the holes that the stock cooler would use, and then this little unit attaches to the fan, which I will do shortly, and screws into here basically. So and you'll see I also removed the little black thing while I was at it. So we're all ready. The first thing this says to do is to remove the fan from the heatsink for installation. I don't know why, but may as well follow directions. So basically you just got to prop up on these little pieces here. I don't know if I can do this while I'm holding the camera. There we go. So the fan comes right off. I'll put this aside for now. And now you just have the heatsink. It looks like the fan can go on either side as well, which is cool. So I'll go ahead and put the camera back down here, see if you can get as much of this as possible, hopefully. Okay. Now, it looks like after you do that, you want to attach, let's say, looks like you want to attach this piece. So essentially what we're doing is attaching the screw mount to here. So if I can turn the camera a little bit, I don't know how well this will get it. Whoa. Okay, looks like I turned that the wrong way then. That goes against every mechanics problem ever, but yeah, I guess in this case you do turn it to the left to tighten it instead of to the right. Well, I'm going to turn the camera off again and see if I can find out where those screws went. Okay, so I actually looked into this some more, and it turns out you don't actually attach those metal parts to it. They just sit on top, and it'll kind of hold itself in when you tighten it. So the next step is actually putting in the CPU. I've already taken it out of the box. This little tiny thing right here, that's the entire CPU. You can see, if you look carefully, you can read that. Intel Core i3, blah blah blah, Costa Rica. So essentially, the processor is, so if I can get a good camera angle here, it's also fairly straightforward for installing this. I'll see if I can hold the camera while I put it in with the other hand. Basically, what you want to look at are these corners. You see how there's a little notch right in there, right here, and there's one here. You look in the plastic and there's a little indentation, which means it goes like this, and the little notches line up with the indentation. That's all it is. It's that simple. So then you just put this on and tighten it, and that is all we need to do. The CPU is now in there. So then the next thing we do is actually attach the cooler, which will be fun. I won't be able to hold the camera for this. It's hard enough with two hands. I mean, I've had to help people do it. You almost need like 3 or 4 hands for this. But I can show you as far as the thermal paste goes. So we'll pop the top off here. Just got some all over my thumb, but that's okay. That's just the sign of building computers. You get thermal paste all over. So you want to put like a little drop, like about that size, like this. Now some guides say you want to spread it out. Others say you want to just leave it like that and let it spread out naturally. I have always just left it, done it naturally, and I find that it works fine. So, I will actually be right back. I'm going to go wash my hands because this is kind of gross. But once I get this stuff off, we'll do the fun part of actually putting the cooler on. Okay. So now comes the fun part, and I'm being completely sarcastic with that, of course, of actually installing the CPU. So we'll want to remove this little plastic cover. Okay. Now, generally the idea is that you don't want to touch this because human skin oil can really hinder the performance. So we will be very careful with this. Okay, so generally what you want to do is start tightening it in the corners, like this, and then the alternating corner. Okay, now all four are in, so we're just going to have to tighten them with a screwdriver. That actually wasn't as hard. I've had some CPU coolers that were nightmares. Okay, so just go ahead and tighten it as far as it goes, pretty much. Okay, you don't ever want to push it. I mean, technically you can make it go even farther down, but it's not a good idea to do that because you'll start messing up the metal. So you kind of just want to go until it stops turning naturally like that. And then don't try to be Superman, don't just, don't keep turning it because you can. Just stop once it becomes hard to turn. So you can tell these screws have quite a lot of slack in them. They do that so that, depending on what type of CPU you have, sometimes the screws need to go a little bit deeper, so. Alrighty. So that is the finished CPU cooler installation. So you'll notice now I can pick the board up and we'll do that. Now it's generally not a good idea to just lift the motherboard up like that. So now the big question is, what side do we want the fan on? Well, since the RAM goes here, I will put it over there. Okay, so where did I put that fan at? Right here. I don't know what all these warning labels are for, but I think we can just leave those alone. So looking at the instructions. Attach the fan to the cooler. Depending on your need, you could mount a second fan. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty useless. I'll go ahead and put this back here and do this. So, kind of just snap this on. Actually, you want to plug it in where it's a CPU fan on here. Yeah, it looks like I can do it normally, as in the right side, the right way up. Okay. Sweet. So there we have it. The fan is all nice and attached. Again, a closer look, and you can see. You might not be able to see because of the light, but this says CPU fan. This 4-pin plug right here. So you basically just plug this in, and these line up. So next up is the RAM. I actually did that one preemptively. If you're using the stock cooler, you can put the RAM in first because there's nothing special involved, but in this case, since I had to do the whole backplate nonsense, you actually don't want to do that. So, again, this is kind of just a matter of fitting everything. Now, this is more of an advice video than anything. You see how there's the one I just put in with a black colored socket, and then you have blue and black alternating? Well, the way these processors work, all of the Intel ones, AMD is usually, black, black, blue, blue, or whatever colors they choose to use. But in this case, they alternate, and most i7s do that. If you're only going to use 2 RAM sticks, okay, for whatever reason, like say you're happy with 8 gigabytes and you have 2 4-gigabyte ones, right? You can just do, you should alternate them. So black, black, blue, blue. And in fact, no, it's too hard to see, but somewhere on the board it's written. Yeah, it's written back here. It actually goes 2, 1, 4, 3. So this one I just put in is actually slot 3. It doesn't matter in this case because, you know, we're putting all 4 in, but just a word to the wise, if you're not filling it up, to go by the colors. They're not there to look pretty, they're actually there, you know, so that they functionally will work. I don't know why they alternate them, to be honest. That's just how Intel is. They're kind of quirky like that. So, okay, get my knees up. And you don't want to push too hard. You kind of just want to push down while putting these tabs in, and they'll, you know, once they go in, you know it's good. Okay, and those little empty plastic things you can do whatever with. You can throw them out. It doesn't matter. You don't need them once the RAM is in there. I mean, I'd suggest keeping them just so you know everything works. And of course, I will test this out to make sure that, you know, all the parts work. I'm actually going to go install Windows on this when it's done and send it to my friend completely ready, so we'll know if the RAM works. Typically, the computer won't even turn on if the RAM or CPU is defective. And if only one of the RAM sticks is defective, it will. And you'll just know it's going really slowly. So that's just a good way to tell. So, last one. And isn't that pretty? So we got our Corsair Vengeance series. So that's pretty much all we do for now. So that's the most expensive 3 parts, really. You got CPU, RAM, motherboard. Now, of course, the CPU is the tiny little thing under here, but this whole unit is basically the CPU now. Now, so some other things to note. These sockets here are where this socket actually is where the graphics card goes. I know this one looks just as long, but this, see, it's just, it's not going to focus very well, but it says PCIe times 16. This one says times 8. So that just means that it's just as long, but if you look at the metal, the pins only go to about halfway. So that one's useful for things like RAID cards or other devices, but you don't want to put a video card in there. You can have 2 video cards. One of them will run at full speed, one will run at half speed. But in this case, since we only have 1 video card that goes in here, this slot will be taken up because the video card takes up 2. So you technically put something in here like a Wi-Fi card or USB 3.0 ports, whatever. And then these 2, well, you got this one too. And then these 2 are standard PCI for older devices. So, and then here we got like front panel audio is this. We have various other headers, our front panel stuff. It's kind of all over. And of course, it's something you're going to want to look in the manual for. So, you know, that's what I'll end up doing before I plug this stuff in. So that is done. Now, what we want to do is prepare the case. Okay, so obviously you want to take this twist tie off of all these wires here. It looks like, is that 2 twist ties or 1? It's hard to tell. Okay. Okay, looks like it was just 1. So these cords will always be like way longer than you need them. That's just how it goes, okay? So typically what you want to do is just do this. Get them out of the way, put them up here, okay? Now these guys, I don't know what that's for. Oh, that's for one of the fans on the top, I see. And this, oh, they're, Oh, I get it. Okay, interesting. So these guys plug into the motherboard. This is one of those top fans. That's interesting how they do that. Okay, so, and I guess we can take that, I'll take that off later when I put the camera down. It's hard to take twist ties off with one hand. So, you can put fans in here too, but we're not going to right now. So, I guess first things first is you want to get your hard drives in and the optical drive in and things of that nature. So, we can go ahead and open the hard drive. The solid state drive is going to require some special assembly. Not really assembly per se, but I don't know if this case has a solid state drive mount or not. I don't think it does. So, essentially we're going to have to make it fit in a regular hard drive slot. Sometimes You can get them as a kit. Usually they cost about $10 more, and it just comes with an adapter, like a little bracket. Okay, this box doesn't want to cooperate. Alright, here we go. Came with screws. We can hold on to these, but we probably don't need them. I got the warranty information and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to put this back. There's a nice little wrap here. You can also go ahead and take this off and just get the bare drive out. I usually buy mine OEM, so I don't have to bother with all this unless if it's the exact same price, then I'm like, why not? I'll take an extra cost, or you know, whatever. So here we go, 2.0 terabytes. I guess in this case I will put it in the second to bottom one. It really doesn't matter which. It's just, you know, just to make things easier. And as far as temperature goes, you don't want to put both drives, since they're going to have a solid state and an optical. You don't want to put both drives back to back really, unless you have to. Like if you have too many hard drives or something like that. So this little mount looks kind of peculiar. My case has something similar to this. You kind of just have to, how does that go in? Weird. Right. Does it go in like this? Yeah, it looks like it goes in backwards then from what's usual. Interesting. Okay, so this thing makes it so you don't need to use the screws. And then it kind of just slides in here. Like this. But the weird thing now is that the cord's going to go in this end, and then it's going to have to come out here. I guess that's what these little holes are for. It's really hard to see in there, I know. I don't have a light or anything. I mean, the ceiling light's on, there's really not much I can do. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any sort of special solid state mount, so... Interesting. We might have to, you know, compensate for that. But before I forget, what we also want to do, see, this is what's called the backplate. Not the CPU backplate, but the backplate for the motherboard. Basically what you want to do, see this hole here? Or if you look from the back, there's just a giant hole. So essentially what you do is you kind of just... I'll just leave this like this. You kind of just reach in here and it just snaps in. So that way when you put the motherboard in, all the pins line up. Because I always wondered that, you know, before I built my first computer, I wondered, you know, how do they make the case so that the actual, you know, things line up? And that's the answer. They don't. They just essentially leave a gaping hole, and then every motherboard will come with one of these. See, this case is a little bit stubborn. Sometimes you have to kind of do this a little bit. Lift edges up and stuff. Come on. Jeez. Well, I'll fix that later. I don't need to do this on camera. Obviously, there's going to be some, you know, tune-ups and stuff that I do off camera just because I can't hold this while doing everything. But the next step, because I got to figure out what to do with the solid state, but the next step will be the optical drive. And the card reader will go in here. So it looks like we kind of just loosen this up a little bit. I'm probably going to have to take the other side off for this one, too. So I'll put this down and do that. Yep, so then there's also this one here. So we loosen this. And then as far as this piece goes, we have to kind of reach inside here and just knock it out. It sounds bad, but it's not. Just something you have to do, fortunately. Oh. So the whole front panel comes off. That's cool. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so here's the front panel then. So you can see you have your, slots like this. So since I'll just put the optical drive on the top one. So we kind of just basically do this and you have to fidget with it a little bit, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this on the camera. There we go. So you essentially just do this. So that opens up a hole. And come on, focus. Come on. There we go. So then from the front, you have a hole there. So then this case is nice because these don't actually break. So you can put this back if you somehow get rid of one of the drives. Some of the cases I've used are cheap and they literally just break the piece out. You have a hole there. So if you're not putting something in, you're stuck with a hole. So let's see if I can... Now that was easier for the floppy drive size slot. Again, it opens this up like that. So, okay, and go ahead and put the front panel back on. I know that sounds bad, but they're just snaps. It's essentially just snapping plastic in. Okay, so now the panel's on and you got the hole. So we're going to go ahead and open up this Blu-ray burner. Probably need scissors for this, don't I? Yeah, I need scissors for all of this. Where's my scissors? Okay, here we go. Switch hands. I'll hold the camera in this hand and cut with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. Let's see if I can do this without, destroying anything. Okay, there we go. So, kind of just unroll everything. Now this one was an OEM. In other words, it doesn't come with it. It doesn't come with a box, and obviously you can tell it's kind of just a drive like this. Come on, get this stupid tape off. And it comes in a little plastic, plastic thing. Kind of shake off here. So here's your Blu-ray disc drive. So this one, in this case, is literally as simple as just doing this. Just slide it in. Like that. I think I slid it in a little too far, but we can reach behind and kind of, adjust this so it's perfect. Like that. There we go, and then we just tighten this guy. Tighten this one, we tighten this one, and now, you can see, it's good to go. So, that's that. As for the card reader, it might take a little bit more work. I don't actually know how that goes in, but we'll try. I'll figure it out right now. Okay. Ooh, instruction manual just fell out. It comes with screws, of course, like everything else. So here's our card reader. It's just a regular multifunction card reader. First things first, take these plastic twist ties off because, that's just annoying. Literally building a computer, you have twist ties everywhere that I'm going to have to pick up later when the camera's not running. And again, it should just be as simple as sliding it in. Now this one's a little bit more difficult because we have this USB cord here, so I kind of have to, feed this through here, like this, and then reach through and grab it. But now it's just a matter of sliding it in. Now, I don't actually know how to attach this one, in all honesty. Looks interesting. I don't know how this works. Interesting. I don't actually know how that works. I guess this is one of those times when I'll look in the manual real quick and see if it mentions anything about it. Yeah. Looks like it does do solid state drives. That's cool. Okay, let's try. Interesting. It makes it look like the entire tray comes out that this is on. Let's take the front panel off again and look. Well, I'm going to turn the camera off because I know you don't want to see me sitting here thinking, but this is the inside of the case looks like, kind of. And you notice the front panel is that big, it sticks out this much. The Blu-ray drive here, you could hold 2 other optical drives. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off, figure out how to do this, and then we'll turn it back on when that's done. And also there's the hard drive in its bay right here. Okay. Okay, so after much deliberation, I managed to get the card reader installed. I actually had to get rid of the toolless mount from this, according to the instruction manual, and I used screws to attach it. And I figured out how this works. It uses the same tray, but you use screws on the bottom here, like that. So it's now held onto this unit. So the next step, now that we've got our optical drive and our card reader in, the hard drives will go in, but they like to fall out every time you move the case around, so I will keep that step until later. But the next part that we need to do is to put the power supply in, and then we basically add 2 and 2, and we put the motherboard in the case. But for now, we need to put our power supply together. So, let's go ahead and open this. See, we have a lot of trash here from this. So, yeah, that's the other fun part about computer building. Not really, is taking out the trash afterwards. Okay. Interesting box. This is like a little sliding thing that just goes over this. That we'll get rid of. So there's a little sticker here. Like all these parts have the little thing you gotta remove. Looks like I can just use my fingernail for this one. I'll just stick it back on here. Okay. So, these are always nice. What these do is they dampen the noise so it's not as loud when it, works. At the warranty card, instruction manuals, basically tell you to put it in the case. So, okay. Now we have our standard US power cable. Put that to the side, we don't need it yet. Here's all of the motherboard cables, because it is modular. And here is the thing itself, so let's put all these boxes away. Oh, cool, it comes with screws, so it saves me from having to use the ones that come with the case. Although, Either one works. Computer screws are actually a standard size usually. And of course there's this part. If you forget this, you'll end up having cooked plastic. I don't know why they like to do this. It just irritates me every time I get one of these. This one is being stubborn. Doesn't want to come off easily. Well, I can get it later. Basically, and I won't do this on camera because, again, I'm going to need both hands to hold everything in place. But basically what you do, since this is a bottom-mounted power supply, you put the fan facing in the case because, you know, that's just how it works. And you kind of line this guy up like this. And then you screw it into the back, like that. I will go ahead and do that and resume filming when... Okay, so I got the power supply in, and now it's time for the most, you know, important part of all. And here you go. So I do have the little rubber things on. The way this power supply is designed, there's only 3 screw holes that line up, but that's perfectly okay. You can see you push on it and it works fine. So, you know, that's just kind of how it works. So I got the hard drive and the solid state drive. I won't put in until all this is done, just because they have a tendency of falling out when the cover's not on, and I don't want to break anything, you know, have the hard drive come falling out and landing on the floor or anything crazy like that. So, suppose it's time to undo this twist tie. I'll put the camera down for a second and do that. Okay, so this is the rear case fan here. These fans have kind of a funky setup because of that little, whatchamacallit, the speed controller, that's it. They have this little thing that sets up the speed. Okay, I just have to push this in again. There we go, that's the snap I wanted to hear. So now this is all good on the edge. So basically the first thing we have to do, if you look at the motherboard, you'll see these little screws with these outlines here. Okay, you basically want to match that to here. So I will show you what I'm talking about. Let's get as much of this out of the way as possible. It's not going to be 100% possible, but we'll try. Okay, so this stuff all lines up here, and yes, as far as I know, it is safe to lift it by the CPU fan. I mean, it is screwed in really well. Okay, so you'll see it has ATX. Okay, so the top 3 ATX here. So we're going to use for these, I already got the screws out because I know we'll need them. These special little ones here. This is what it looks like up close. So it has a screw, and then also has the screw hole. So you kind of just screw it in like this, and then it extends the hole. You say, well, why? What's the point of that? Well, it props up the motherboard because of things like that back plate that we put on that adds a little bit of depth to it. Okay. So I'd also assume that the bottom 3 that say ATX are being used, because most of these are standard. Very rarely you get some that are, you know, defiant and don't use the regular holes, but more often than not they do. It looks like this one uses even more, which is fine. I mean, that's perfectly okay. Alright. Now, looking at this, it looks like it looks like it's going to use all 10. There are 10 possible holes for ATX boards. Some of them only use 9. It looks like this one uses all of them, so let's just go ahead and put one of these bad boys in for all of them. I mean, it won't necessarily hurt if you put an extra anyway. I mean, the worst that happens is there's no hole that lines up to it, and you just go, oh, there's no hole that lines up to it. But in this case, yeah, it works fine. So, now come on. There we go. Had to lift it off the couch a little bit because it was, you know, pushing down on me. Or rather, the couch was pushing up on here. Okay. So, put the last one in. Yeah, I always hate doing these. It's like, you know, very cramped, and oftentimes it's hard to line stuff up correctly. Okay, now you basically just set it on these things that you just put. The best way to do this is just to line up the inserts here. You know, just line those up, and most of these should follow. Now, I forgot to get the screws that actually, you know, screw the motherboard in. So, let me just check real quickly. If the motherboard comes with them, it's usually better to use those, but it doesn't always, so yeah, it didn't. So, what we're gonna have to do is go over here. This is my desktop, and I have all of the screws that came with it laid out here. So what we want to do, I believe it's these short ones here. You have a flat head. It's hard to see, but they're basically, you have the ones with the rounded heads that you use for like DVD drives. These big ones here are usually used by the video cards and such, and then these ones with the flat heads are used by motherboards. So let's go ahead and find, there should be exactly 10 of them. 3, 4. Let's see. Sometimes they're hiding. It took me a while to find the ones for the card reader as well. How many is that? 6. I need 4 more. Okay. 7. That's not it. Here's one. 8. I need 2 more. 9. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's 9. See, there's gotta be one extra one. Really? Oh, there, it was hiding under my keyboard. 10. Alright, so we got 10 of these, so now I just have to grab them very carefully, put them in my hand here, and we will go back to where I'm putting everything together, and we will use these, we'll use these to screw the motherboard in. Now again, I'm not going to be able to really show this, but basically you just screw it in on the holes, but since I need both hands, one to hold it and one to screw, I will turn the camera off again, and there's a... Okay, so the motherboard's all attached. It's all screwed in, so you can, you know, kind of do this with the edges, and you'll notice it's all. Okay, so the motherboard's now in. I got all the screws are in place, and you can see the back panel here is nice and lined up. So the next step is essentially to plug in the power supply to the motherboard. We have these 2 plugs here. There's a 24 pin, which is this big one, and the 8 pin, which is this one. I don't know exactly what the 8 pin does. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me. This one I know is it's the main power provider, you know, that spreads power to the motherboard, distributes it among all the parts, so on and so forth. And it's also how it determines when you press the power button. So, first thing we got to do is basically connect, if I can put the camera down and do this, connect these. Alright. So you see there's a little, this part detaches, because some older boards only have 20 pins instead of 24, but basically all new ones will use the full 24 pins. It's technically 23, because if you look at them, this one here doesn't have an actual pin. That's just how it works. There's usually always, in every even number of pins, there's usually always a dead pin. That's just how they do it. But whoever designs these things, I guess, figures it's better to have an even, you know, an odd number, or an even number, I mean. So, I know there's no light, so you're not really going to be able to see this well, but this big connector here, that's where that goes in. And it even says power, it's right next to the power button. You might ask, why is there a power button on the motherboard? I've always wondered that myself. I guess it's like if your case, the power button on the case ever wants to stop working, it'll, oh, I guess it goes on the other way. And that's the other cool thing about these, is they only go in one way. So you can't, like, accidentally do it wrong. They literally, it only goes in one direction. So we got this in, and you kind of just snap it until it you know, sits still like this, so you can pull up on it. Obviously, you don't want to use too much force because you don't want to, you know, break it. But that's weird the way this is designed. Let's see. I guess you kind of have to, you know, make sure that the snap is in place before you do it. That's really weird. Usually it doesn't do that, because it's hard to get them all in there at once. But let's try it again. Okay. Alright, that's good. So that's in there. I mean, as far as the length, it looks like it's a pretty good length for the cord. You know, there's a little bit of slack here, but it's not too serious, and the video card will kind of go like this, so it'll be... This one can be a problem, though. There's a lot of extra slack. So typically, you know, what you do is you take like a twist tie or something, and you do it like this. You have these little holes here. They're designed for liquid cooling, but you can use them for wire control, too. Or cable control, I mean. The 8-pin is always hard to do because you can see it's... Actually, you can't see it due to the lighting, but it's all the way up in this corner. All the way up here. And so, it's really hard to get my hands in there. So, I'm willing to just put the camera down. Actually, I can sort of do this with one hand. But again, same drill here. You basically want to connect the two. And again, some motherboards only have... Actually, it looks like these ones don't connect permanently. They just kind of... You just connect them both. But it's the same principle there. Some motherboards only have only have slots for 4 pins. I don't know why. It's an older thing. Like, the older ones only did 4. And then they, I guess, realized that they needed more power, so they started using 8. But pretty much everything new uses 8 pins. Yeah, this is always really hard. This is like the hardest part, just because it's really hard to get my hands in here. Someone with smaller hands might have a better time. It's partially to do with the giant CPU cooler as well. I mean, once you get the plug plugged in, it's like... Okay, there's part of it. Let's just get the other part. Because again, this doesn't really... You know, both parts are separate. But yeah, so this one is, we can kind of just leave it like this, going behind the cooler. I mean, the likelihood that it's going to go in front of it is like next to nothing, because if you think about it, gravity's just going to pull this thing down. Assuming that you're standing the computer the right side up, you know? And I don't know many people who use their computers upside down. Okay, give me a moment. This is literally my least favorite part of this. It seems like every motherboard puts this 8-pin like all the way up in the corner, so it's always really annoying to get the plug in. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's in place. So there are a couple steps you want to do next. And the order, I guess, doesn't matter. You basically, you know, you put in, okay, we'll put the solid state drive. Now, let me get this wire out of the way. I put this in here temporarily just to get them out of the way. So we'll put the solid state drive in here. We'll put the regular hard drive in here. And you notice I have them 2 apart. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bays. Put one in here, one here. So it's not the very top and bottom, which means that, you know, the fans can actually blow on them. Usually the top and bottom, the very top and very bottom, aren't going to be hit by the fans as much. And then this way the middle ones are empty. So there's a nice gap between the two. But yeah, the connectors go on the other side. So basically what we have to do is connect everything else. So the Blu-ray drive, you know, have to connect the power and the data and so on. And like this is the front panel USB. You have to plug into the USB header and all of that. So the order doesn't matter. And this is what we'll use, these cables here, When I'm ready, I'll undo those. But I can do that last. Really, you don't need to do that first. So we kind of just get going with these. So you look for I really wonder what all these are for. Looks like the fan cables you can plug into here and power them. I'm just going to leave these out of the way for now. So we basically look at, okay, so this is a USB 3.0 header. When you look at the board, you see this little blue thing. That's the USB 3.0 header, so we kind of just, let's see, plug that guy in like that. You know, actually, for better cable control, what I'm going to do, and I guess I'll turn the camera off for this, is use these little holes here, put it through the back, and then have it come out here. It just kind of organizes it a little bit better. But essentially, you just want to plug in all of this stuff. Alright, so you have the USB, you have fans, you have other various things. And then the front panel cords are usually part of that too. There's got to be one of these plugs has to have the front panel stuff. Let's see. USB. Here's HD audio. That goes back here where it says FP audio for front panel audio. And again, that just plugs in like that. Which is again why they, you know how, that's why then I said there's always a dead pin. Like if you look here, you'll see one of those isn't an actual connector. There's a solid black piece over it. And if you look at here, let me zoom in real slowly. You'll see there's a missing pin. Again, same reason for that. Did I just... Yeah, okay, it looks like I zoomed in too far. The camera's not wanting to focus on it anymore. So you can see there's a pin missing. Again, that's why they do that, because then you make sure that you plug it in the right way. So it's actually a clever design. USB does the same thing. USB, the corner one's always missing. So, I mean, it's a nice way to kind of make sure that... Here's another USB. I mean, it's a nice way to make sure that you don't accidentally plug stuff in backwards. The front panel connectors have got to be one of these. And then you also have a serial ATA plug that'll go in one of these. That's for the eSATA part. Oh, here are our front panel connectors right here. So you see the reset switch. Reset. I usually call it reset button. These two are the power LED plus and minus. Those are usually separated for some reason. Hard drive LED. And the most important one, power switch or power button. And these always go in these little colored things here in the corner. Right here. Which is, again, I'm going to have to look in the manual to figure out exactly which ones go where. So I'm going to turn the camera off and I will show it again once I've got all the power plugs and all the various USB and all that good stuff connected. And what the cable management kind of looks like. But until then, that's... Okay, so now all the wires are nice and organized here. You see I have the front panel connectors, the two USBs, one of them's from the card reader. You have the eSATA one in the middle because, you know, these two are going to be used by the hard drives and then the Blu-ray burner will go in here, or this one. You have the audio plugged in, so everything's all nice and neat now. So really the next thing, there's only two more steps, is you plug in the power for things like the Blu-ray drive here and the hard drives, then you plug the data cable, you know, as in the serial ATA cables, and then all that's left is to put the video card in, and that's pretty much it. So again, this is going to take some work at, you know, organizing it, but for now I will just demonstrate how this is done. This is one type. We have a Molex power, which is the 4-pin, the traditional kind that's been used by devices ever since, you know, the late 80s probably. Then the newer type is this, the serial ATA power. Unfortunately, this power supply, it's only one or the other. It's either 3 SATA or 3 Molex. You can't do like a hybrid. So in this case, this here is a Molex adapter. You need this for the fan speed control. which means we're going to have to use an entire chain of Molexes, even though we only really need one. So basically what we do is, since this is a modular power supply, you probably can't see in here. You can kind of see at this angle. These little pinouts here are where we would do, you know, you basically would connect it to one of those black connectors there. The white connectors are for video cards, which again we'll do at the very end. You connect it to that, and then you would just plug in the other end. So I'll show you this for now, and then I'm going to basically undo it and do it all nice and neat, so it has a nice cable management system going. But it would essentially just plug it in like this. It only really goes one way. Okay? And, you know, on the other end, you kind of just go up to the thing and plug it in. Like that. So, but again, now it's just all ugly and you've got cables hanging all over, so I'm basically going to plug in the power for this stuff off camera. Again, running the power cables through these little holes here in the case, and, you know, doing it all nice and neat, because, you know, that's one of the worst things you can do, is have wires hanging everywhere. It just becomes a mess. So the best time to organize it is right off the bat. So again, I'm going to turn the camera off, and next time you see anything, all the cables will be plugged in, and it'll just be the video card that needs to be done. So until... Alright, so one last thing to show before I put the video card in. So you got all the wires plugged in. So you can see we have our serial ATA cables here, and you have the optical drive with its two, you have the power and data. It's kind of hard to show this on the camera, especially because the light doesn't want to go in here very well, but see, everything's all nice and organized with the exception of this fan cable right here. But everything else is pretty much, you know, out of the way. But let me just show you, going around the other side though, it's quite a mess. So you have wires everywhere here. So one of the challenges is kind of to just, you know, get all this, flatten it out, kind of get it out of the way. And then you put this side of the cover on, right here. And then you can turn the case on its side. Also, see these two fan cables here. Essentially, the fan controller, this fan controller up here, it plugs in with that Molex that I showed you earlier, and then these three here are what you can control with it. So there's only two fans that come with this case. Technically, you could use the one in the back, but obviously there's no way to make the cord reach all the way over here. Plus, it's usually a good idea to have the fan in the back always at full power. But this way, this controller up here will control the two front fans that cool the hard drive. So that's it. I mean, everything else, you can see you have your hard drive, or this is the solid state, that's the hard drive down there. The red one's a little bit more visible. SATA cables are usually red. You can get them in black. You can get them in any color you want, but typically the cheap ones anyway are red, the ones that come with the motherboards. But you got the power cables as well. So everything is all set. So once again, I'm going to turn the camera off and flatten everything out on that side of the case, put the cover on it, and then lay it back down on its side, and we'll do the very last step, which is putting the video card in. And then it'll be all set other than installing the operating system. Okay, so now the case lies flat. I put the side panel on here. You can kind of see some of the wires, but that's inevitable. Get your bottom fan filters. So now all we need to do is put the video card in. So first things first, let's see if I can get a light in here. Hold on a second. Okay, so first things first is these little black pieces here that I'm shining the light on. We need to take these out. Now these ones are, since it's a fancy case, these actually have little thumb screws that you can undo. Wow, that's in there pretty tight though. Perhaps they're not thumb screws. Let's get a screwdriver. Those are really tight. Okay. And we're going to need to take out two of them because, again, the video card is double thick. That's common with most powerful graphics cards. And essentially, we'll just discard these little these little metal pieces. But for now, I'll just keep them handy. The screws will go right back in once we get the video card in. And take this one out. And now we can kind of see some fresh air. Okay. So essentially all we need to do is just put it in this PCI Express slot. We'll get these wires up over it, and the video card should help keep those out of the way. And then this cable at the very end, I will just twist tie it somewhere so it's out of the way. So here's the box. I already went ahead and took the shrink wrap off it. And pull out the contents here. Huh. Well, that's different. Anyway, yeah, that was weird how they had that packaged. Alright, so you take the little caution static sensitive device label off. Okay. And here we go. So this is the very classy looking graphics card. And it'll come with some stuff like an adapter and everything, which I'll provide with the computer, but yeah. And we have the two power things on the side there. So essentially, and the way this works is you put the graphics card in, and then you basically how does this just lock on its own? You kind of pull this thing up like that, and it locks it in. Typically, you don't even need to lock them in. They're strong enough to do that on their own, but let's just go ahead and kind of put this in place here. Gonna look at what I'm doing, make sure it's actually going in the slot. There we go. I know that sounds ugly, but it's good. And once the camera decides to focus, there we go. So again, we can kind of reach in here and, oh, it looked like it locked itself automatically. That's nice. So remember, I was mentioning these screws. So these just go right back in. Essentially hold the card in place because, you know, it kind of wobbles around otherwise. And let me say, using screws is better than any of those cases with the screwless expansion slots. My case has a little thing that, you know, can flip down over it. So you supposedly don't need screws, and it's awful. It doesn't work. I literally just, you know, took the thing off and I used screws instead. You know, using screws is much, much better. So, I mean, yeah, it takes a couple extra seconds to, you know, screw stuff in, but it's trivial. Okay. So now it's nice and secure. We look at the back here, and you have your two DVI slots and the HDMI. So, and we can kind of just do this. See what I mean? The graphics card is perfect at holding these up. So the only thing we need to do, let's get this wire out of here. And I will tie this to this little bezel, this little hole, or maybe this little unit, I don't know. But I'll put a twist tie here to get that out of the way. The graphics card does have fans. They're sort of shielded by these. But you don't want to be, you know, accidentally having wires going in here like this, because it will make a nasty grinding sound and it won't be pretty. Okay. So, next thing we need to do is we grab the two PCI Express cables. And as you can see, there's a, let me grab the light again. As you can see, there's a special gray spot on the back of the power supply. These two sockets here and here. And that's where these plug in. So, I'll start with one. And this one, put that. Now these extra two, I'll show you on this one. They have an extra 2. Some graphics cards require 8 pins instead of just 6, which is silly because there's always only 6 at the end. I've never seen one that has 8 at the end, so I don't quite get the point of those extra 2. I don't know what they do, but nonetheless, I have seen some, you know, graphics cards that need them. So essentially they're useless. So plug that in, and those are good. Really not much we can do about these, I guess. I mean, you can kind of, yeah, no. They'll kind of just be there. Maybe you'll just twist tie them to this cage, the little hard drive cage here, because that's a nice, you know, you got these holes in the side. Maybe I'll just twist tie them to that. But there we go, that's the completed thing. Now the graphics card's in and everything else is hooked up. Really the big test is, and here you can see the front panel plugs are in. The worst fear you can ever have, really, when building a computer, is you go to press the power button and it doesn't turn on. There are a couple things to check for. Number one, power supplies have a switch on the back. As you can see, this one's turned off. You need to turn that on. Again, that's kind of obvious. I leave them off until they're plugged in, just as a safety precaution. But the other thing, though, and this would happen in my first build, the motherboard manual often doesn't show you. Like, for example, there's this little sticker here that it came with, and you can see where it says front panel. But you'll notice it shows the plus and minus for both of the LEDs, the power LED and the hard drive LED. But for resetting on-off, it doesn't actually show that. So I kind of just had to guess. It's a 50-50 shot. So you basically just want to test those. If you press power and it doesn't work, you don't want to freak out and say, oh, my computer's broken. No. All you have to do is just take the side off and flip one of these around. Flip the power one around. Chances are it's just plugged in backwards. And no, it won't hurt your motherboard if it's plugged in backwards. It just won't work. It just won't turn on, that's all. I know I say just won't turn on, like, you know, taking it lightly, but really it's not as bad as you might think. So that's all there is to it, really. Once this thing gets booted up and has Windows on it, I might get the camera back out, but that's pretty much it for building. As you can see, it's not too hard of a process. It is time-consuming just in that you gotta find all the screws and open all the boxes and do all that, but it's easily doable in a day's time. This took maybe 3-4 hours total, you know, off camera time. I realized I cut the camera quite a bit. But yeah, it's fun. So here you go, that's the finished thing. That's what most computers look like inside, maybe a little less wires. If they're store-built, they're probably rather messy, because companies like Dell and so on don't usually have good cable management unless they're like servers. But there you go.